Welcome back. I'm Anastasia, and my mission is to build a community of acceptance and authenticity. I needed some adventure buddies for this journey of insight, and I'm glad it's you. You are all welcome here, and I am grateful you decided to join me. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank my partner, Occupied Mind. Occupied Mind's goal is to create a sanctuary of self-expression. Their belief is simple yet profound. Everyone deserves to feel at home in their own skin. We share that dream, which is why I support them, and my closet is slowly turning into an Occupied Mind showroom. Their latest one is all about being chronically dehydrated. I love it. Use code INSIGHTSWITHUS15 at checkout to find a shirt that speaks your mind and bears your soul. That's OCTOPIEDMIND.com, occupiedmind.com. Use code INSIGHTSWITHUS15 at checkout for 15% off. Be authentically you. As a disclaimer, there may be swearing in this podcast, but sometimes we get caught up in the human experience. It happens. And sometimes we can talk about difficult or activating topics. So maybe put on some headphones if you need to, and remember that support exists for you if you want it. I've been feeling a little stressed lately. Who hasn't? With this year, a lot of us are more on edge, feel more alone, and are struggling to feel grounded. Because of this, I wanted to take today to talk about the different forms of self-care for your mind and your body, self-preservation, and do some check-ins so that you can build insight into what your mind and body are actually telling you right now. So let's get started and see if we can build some insight today. There are many kinds of self-care, and these days self-care is synonymous with treat yourself. And for those who watch Parks and Rec, yes, that is in fact what I am quoting. However, self-care goes deeper than getting your nails done and buying yourself that little treat, though I do love little treats. Self-care is a practice that allows us to fill up our cups and feel more authentic in who we are. There are many different kinds of self-care, and I'm going to dive into those during this episode. But first, I want to shift what we think about when we say self-care. I want you to think about it as self-preservation. I first read the term self-preservation in the book Reclaiming Body Trust by Hilary Kinavy and Dana Sturtevant. They discuss how self-care has been taken over by wellness industries and has become buy yourself that thing or book that treatment, instead of what they want self-preservation to be, which is building a deeper knowledge of what helps you feel taken care of. This could be going to the spa, if that's what you really need, but it could also be setting a boundary, spending the weekend alone with a good book instead of going out with friends like you had planned. It could be making yourself a home-cooked meal that fuels your body after you've been eating for your soul all week, or even eating some food that fuels your soul after you've been eating for your body all week. In my mind, self-preservation is the purest form of psychological flexibility. It's not, how do I need to balance my week to fit everything in? It's, what do I need right now, in this moment, even if it doesn't make sense to everyone else? I'm going to run through a couple of different areas of self-preservation, ask you some questions to help you build curiosity for your internal space, and throw out some examples of what self-preservation looks like for me, and for others, potentially. It is not what it's going to look like for everyone, and there might be examples that fit for you that I don't mention. And a great example is I need a lot more downtime than most people. So if what I share doesn't connect to you, then don't use it. Use my questions as a guide and your reactions of, oh, wow, I would never want to do that. Or, ooh, that is a good idea, as a cue for curiosity as we try to answer this question. What is it that helps you feel like you? First, I want to separate out the different types of thinking that exist within when we are trying to determine what we need. The barriers that might get in our way. Our minds, especially in our current society, are often in a state of solution finding. We want to figure out how to fix our feelings. This isn't a bad thing, but it can lead to pressure, sometimes panic, around needing to get those needs met at all costs, no matter what. When finding the answers and working on navigating our experience is useful, if we jump to solutions first, if we take the first thought we have, believe it, and then try to force a particular solution to happen, we might miss a lot of important information that could lead to true self-preservation and healing. I've said before and will say again, the first step is noticing what exists. The second step is noticing what our reaction is to the thing that exists. And the third step is to decide what we can do with it. It's important to look within ourselves and what we have control over. If we focus on what we want others to do to make us feel better, even if it could help, this will lead to eventual disappointment because we can't control others. So if our solution is for someone else to do something for us, they aren't always going to be able to meet our needs, and we are going to struggle again in the future. Let me give you an example. It's an example that I've shared before in less detail, and I believe that was in my episode with William O'Connor around relational attunement. Great episode if you haven't heard it yet. But let me give you some more details in this context. I have always, my whole life, had 3 or more roommates. I have a big family. I've lived in dorms with many people. I've lived with my brothers as an adult. During COVID, I lived with an ex and 4 other people, totaling 6 of us in one house. I would have moments of quiet in my office or in my room, but the second I left that space, I was bombarded by everyone else's existence. They were allowed to exist in common areas too. I'm not saying it was wrong or bad, but I always craved the idea of having more peace, more quiet, and more room to take up space without worrying about other people's space too. This year, I finally had the opportunity to do this. I moved in with my current partner and away from the loud, boisterous home life that I was used to. I work from home and he works in person, meaning I am alone with Juliet all day. And when we first moved in together, he was also connecting with friends and enjoying his hobbies 3 to 5 days a week, depending on the week and what others needed or wanted from him. What this means is I went from never being alone to literally being alone the majority of the time, except for maybe 2 to 4 evenings a week. I really struggled with this transition. I had no idea how to hold this much alone time all at once, even though I wanted it. And Juliet didn't know how to handle it either. And she had separation anxiety during the transition, which means I wasn't just home alone, I was stuck at home while I trained her and helped her nervous system into this new space. My partner lived alone before we moved in together, so he was used to having his own timeline, not factoring in someone else at home, and at first didn't really change much in how he had to show up. Unfortunately, this led to me feeling even more alone because he would spend his days the way he normally would, and the difference is I wasn't hanging out with my community while he did that, which is what we used to do. I was at home panicking, alone, and having no idea how to navigate this new experience. I really needed to feel connected. I needed to slow down in the transition and to see people face to face. But I didn't have the luxury of deciding who I saw when because it was happening the way it did, and I don't have control over other people. So instead, I fell pretty deep into depression. I felt helpless, alone, and my people were all in their own worlds dealing with all their own stuff. Fortunately, I did have a few friends who did have space and energy to support me, and they would check in regularly and come over all the time, and I am still sending gratitude their way for their willingness to show up with me in my hurt and loneliness, and they grounded me and made me feel like I could make it through this loneliness, and I wasn't going to lose my community just because it looked different. Now, in the height of all of this, I tried to have a conversation with my partner about the experience, and I immediately jumped to step 3, like most of us do. I have a problem. We need to fix this. So I sat down and talked about how I need a community, and he's gone most nights, and I'm not okay with this. that something needs to change because it's not sustainable. He got confused and hurt, understandably. He didn't understand what I was trying to say. And I was so focused on the solution of what was a surface level problem. You're never here. And I'm upset because you're never here. Therefore, you have to be here in order to fix it. It sounds simple, except that it's not what was actually wrong. It wasn't the whole story. So I paused, I backed up, and instead of focusing on the solution, step 3, I started back at step 1. I tried to connect him to what existed. I tried to tell him that it wasn't about the fact that his schedule isn't okay, that him having friends is bad. That's not what I was saying at all. It's that we just moved in together and we are in the middle of a transition and I feel really lonely. And the community that I'm used to leaning on in the way that I'm used to leaning on them isn't there anymore. And I moved in with him, but I feel like he's never home. And I changed a lot as I'm trying to get used to this new way of life and accepting the life we're trying to build. I tell him that I'm noticing a reaction to that experience, step 2, which is hurt. That this experience is making me think that he hasn't made any adjustments to this life that we're building together. And while I don't want him to change who he is, I am feeling incredibly lonely and I don't know what to do about it. Pulling away from the solution allowed him to slow down in my hurt and that loneliness with me, and helped him actually show up with me instead of me trying to control his actions to make myself feel better. He grabbed me and hugged me and held space for the big change in my life and acknowledged that this is brand new for me. It makes sense that I'd feel this way. And he isn't used to living with anyone plus a dog. So actually, it's going to be a hard transition for both of us. And now he's a part of that transition with me. And in that moment, I didn't feel so alone. I didn't need a solution. I just needed to feel seen and understood. And with that, we could start talking about what we can do about it, what kinds of adjustments that we could make together so that we could truly build this life. We spent months trying different options, different schedules, and what felt most authentic for us. He doesn't spend every night at home, and I don't spend every night out adventuring with him either. He makes sure to prioritize me and make sure that I feel connected, especially as I was still getting used to the alone time. And now it is sacred to me. Sometimes I kick him out of the house because I want to be alone. We have worked hard to find a balance that helps both of us feel connected and never pressured the other person to show up in the way that didn't fit our values or who we are. So, do you remember why I shared this example with you? It is because often when we start thinking about self-care, we try to find the solution to our problem of feeling something uncomfortable. But sometimes self-care isn't about finding a solution. It can be a barrier. It is about giving our minds permission to feel our experience and accept that it's happening. Now, staying away from solutions doesn't necessarily mean that you are accepting what is happening or that you are letting your experience exist. Often, in our human experience, there is another barrier that shows up. When we try to feel our feelings, we're really just intellectualizing our feelings. So what does this mean? It means that we are trying to understand our feelings as a way to make more sense of them so that we can switch back to solutions and make the feeling go away. You can catch yourself intellectualizing your feelings by noticing if you are trying to understand why the feeling is there. If you are explaining different memories related to the feeling, explaining what is going on with the feeling, or what might make you feel better or what you need in that moment. Notice those are still types of solutions. Acceptance means letting the feeling be there, even if you don't know why, and understand that you will survive that discomfort, and you can worry about the why or what you need later. If you are in the feeling, truly letting it exist, it's okay to have needs, but those needs might not be solutions. For me, advocating for my needs while I'm feeling my feelings could look like, I just need to feel this right now. I'd love a hug if you can give it. Or if you can't give me a hug, maybe you could just sit with me while I cry or space out. Or even, I think I need some alone time right now. I appreciate that you want to be here for me, but I really need to process this alone. I'm going to take some space. It could also look like, I am holding space for a hard feeling right now, so I can't hold space for what you're going through. Can we sit in our shit together, or do we need to separate so we don't put our hurt or discomfort on each other? Notice that these questions or requests are not that the other person has to fix it for us. All the needs are related to holding space for the experience, not making this experience go away. There is no attempt to understand why the feeling is there, but instead giving it true, honest permission to exist. When we are in a heavy or uncomfortable feeling, our thoughts make quick work of intellectualizing. I am incredibly good at intellectualizing, and I still, to this day, have to catch myself to slow down in the thoughts and not believe them. I have a lot of human moments, and my current journey is giving myself permission to be human and messy in front of others and hope that they can hold space for it and be curious about the experience with me. Not everyone can, which is okay. That's theirs to hold, not mine. And it's not their job to fix it for me. So if they're not at the same place in this journey as me, I also need to accept that and let it be okay that that is how this experience exists for them. When we intellectualize, trying to find the right answer for why the feeling is there, I want you to think about all of those potential automatic thoughts as data for how you're doing and clues for what act of self-preservation you might need, and not 100% fact for what is happening in your world. For example, if you are having the thought, everything is horrible and I don't know how I'm going to survive this year, can that thought lead to curiosity and the realization of, oh, wow, I'm thinking everything is horrible? That must mean I'm really fucking stressed right now. And I am definitely not grounded. I probably shouldn't make any big decisions right now and should move gently with myself and others. Anytime you get caught up in the solutions or the immediate answers, use it as an invitation to back up and put curiosity between yourself and that thought. What makes it feel so important? What else is there? What might you need at this moment to feel better? Not to make it go away or fix it, but to be able to hold it better. What kinds of questions can you ask yourself to build awareness into this experience and start identifying what types of mental self-care you might need? So no matter what your current headspace is, I'm going to invite you to be curious about what your present moment experience is and see if you can identify answers to these questions. Feel free to pause this episode after each question so you have time to sit with each before continuing. What kinds of thoughts are running through my head right now? For example, you might notice uncomfortable thoughts like, I can't do this, no one cares about me, I'm not okay, or the world is falling apart. Thoughts can also be more comfortable, such as, I want to go on an adventure, I'm bored and I want to try something new, I miss my friends and I want to see them, I haven't read in a while and that book is calling my name. Thoughts could also be task-focused. My anxiety and my perfectionist parts have a lot of task-focused thoughts. Like, I have so much to do. I don't know where I'm going to find the time. I forgot about that one task. Shit, I need to write it down before I forget again. I can't slow down. Be curious about the thoughts. Like you're listening to a report. They don't have to mean something more unless you want it to. Next question. What feelings can I identify that might be fueling these types of thoughts? For example, you might notice sadness, loneliness, fear, anger, or boredom, excitement, contentment, anticipation, or even anxiety? The next question: am I able to hold space for this right now? Or am I jumping to solutions or thinking about what others can do to help me feel better? Next question for you: am I able to hold space for this right now? Or am I jumping to solutions or thinking about what others can do to help me feel better? With this, if you are not able to hold space for the experience, can you accept that that's where you're at? And instead of jumping to the first distraction you find, take a moment to intentionally decide what kind of distraction you need. We're going to talk about this more in a moment. If you are jumping to solutions, can you pause in the solution and instead give yourself permission to distract instead of trying to fix it? If you are hoping someone else shows up for you to fix this, can you take a moment to remind yourself that we cannot control others? And once again, can you pick an activity that you can do on your own that might help ease this stage of your journey? These are all examples that I myself have experienced or that I see often. If you experience any of this, you're not alone. There are a lot of humans out there in the same phase of the journey. We're all doing the best we can, and being able to name where you are is one of the first steps in being able to recognize where you might need to go next. So now that you've held space for these questions and what your experience might be, let's talk about the different types of activities and thoughts that go with them that might count towards self-preservation with your mind. Again, we are not talking about the let's go to the spa type of self-care. We are talking about what can build safety within your nervous system so that you can trust yourself to navigate your experience, no matter what it is. So activities for holding space, if you are able to hold space, could include, which is my favorite, canceling your plans so you can spend time alone with your thoughts and feelings. This is a big one for me. I used to not be able to do this. And if I am struggling, I need to go into hermit mode because I easily take on other people's feelings for them. And I need to distance myself if I'm going to have a chance of focusing on my own experience. My closest friends and I typically see each other only a couple times a year because we all understand how busy we are and how sacred this downtime is for us. Lying on the floor, bed, or couch is another option because it gives yourself permission to do nothing because, again, you're trying to sit with your experience. You might journal about what's going on so you can process it more in depth, or go for a walk without music or a podcast so that you can actually think about what you're going through. You might call a trusted friend who can hold space with you and help give you that permission to process your feelings and what you are holding. Again, not why you're holding it, just that you are. Or even just a mindless activity so your mind can focus on your experience, like coloring or Zen doodling. If you are not yet in a place on your journey where you can stop and invite the feelings to exist with curiosity or the ability to stay grounded through the discomfort, there are two types of distracting activities. There are activities that invite dissociation and activities that invite activation and movement in a new kind of way. What I want to invite you to think about or try when you need to distract from your experience is to make an intentional choice about what kind of distraction you need, instead of just jumping to a solution and distracting yourself before you even know what's going on. So this might look like, I am way too exhausted and overwhelmed, and a bad thing just happened on top of everything else. There is no way I can handle sitting in these feelings right now. So what kind of distraction do I need? And then, based on those thoughts running through your head and that feeling you've got, intentionally decide on an activity. So if you want to invite dissociation or checking out, you might notice thoughts like, I just need everything to stop. I can't handle anything else today. I want to press pause on this day and just breathe. It's too much. If you can't let that exist and you need a distraction, the activities that will invite dissociation are scrolling on your phone, binge watching TV, zoning out with a video game, or taking a nap. If you want to invite movement or activation, you might notice thoughts like, ugh, I just need to do something. I can't sit here anymore. I have to be productive. Or I need a win. Any win at all, just a win. So if you can't let that exist and you need a distraction, movements that will invite that type of distraction are things like going to the gym, hanging out with friends and not talking about what's going on because we're distracting, remember? Crafting, reading, gardening, cleaning, or reorganizing can even count towards this goal of distracting while moving. Dissociating and distracting are very important tools for our nervous system in order to get through challenging experiences that we aren't ready for yet. They keep us safe. But if we immediately jump to dissociation or distraction without being aware of it, or having a say in what activity we choose, it can be detrimental over time and even become more severe and prevent us from being grounded when we could have handled it. This space of intentional choice, this pause of, whew, that's on my mind. What do I want to do about it? Oh, I can't do anything about it. Let me go distract. I can't handle this. What activity do I want? Literally, what we just ran through. Using this creates safety and regulation in our nervous system, gives us the ability to remember that we have a choice. And ideally, over time, you are going to start to realize that you can hold space for that uncomfortable feeling. You might not like it. It's still going to be uncomfortable, but you will survive it. And you might start to choose that option in the future, knowing you can get through it, knowing that it's okay to let it exist. So anytime that you can, slow down and try to catch yourself dissociating, intellectualizing, or hunting for solutions, and ask yourself the important self-care questions. What do I need to take care of my mind and feel most like me? What can I do as an act of self-preservation? So now that we've checked in with our minds, let's talk about what self-care and self-preservation can look like for the body. What does it even mean to check in with our bodies? Our bodies will feel different from day to day, and what they need can differ depending on its feeling. It is easy to get stuck in a black and white formula of, if it feels like my body needs something, then I should always do X. Usually that X is, I should go to the gym. Even if your body is feeling lethargic and exhausted from holding stress and is begging for a slower day, so many of us push through that and go, I should go to the gym. It'll make me feel better. The challenge with checking in with our bodies is to try and avoid labels like good or bad, like going to the gym is good, staying home is bad. Don't do that. We also want to avoid labels like healthy and unhealthy, especially around food. Using these terms can lead to us restricting ourselves and refusing to give ourselves foods that we love, movements that our body needs, and getting stuck on a strict routine that might not be sustainable. Don't believe me? The authors of Reclaiming Body Trust, really, truly read this book if you're curious about this stuff. They discuss several research studies that have shown that strict diets are likely to fail. And the time between starting a new diet or workout challenge and falling off the wagon shortens over time, and the pattern perpetuates, creating a cloud of shame over our inability to stick with it. But it's not our fault. It's not sustainable, and it only hurts us to try to force it to be. So what if the goal is not staying on diet or sticking to a strict workout regimen? What if we didn't tie together how much we ate and how much we exercise? What if we actually get to know our bodies, how they feel, what they want, and what they like and dislike, And then once we can listen to our bodies, what if we actually give our bodies what they want? I know it's a wild idea. Building a relationship with our bodies can be a challenging task, and it isn't as easy as, okay, so now I'm just going to ask my body what it wants, and then it will tell me. If you have been shut off from your body or so focused on following a schedule that you ignore what your body says for the sake of what you're supposed to do, learning to listen to it can feel overwhelming, scary, and even illogical. But feelings aren't logical. How we show up in the world isn't always logical. If it were, this would be easier, and you'd feel good pretty much all the time because you could just logic your way out of any uncomfortable experience. If this were easy, I wouldn't have a job. If you've never connected or listened to your body before, that's okay. I recommend starting small. This could be noticing really tiny cues like, what does your hunger actually feel like? When you go to eat something, do you feel that hunger, or are you just grazing because you can? Are you eating from emotions or boredom, or because your body is actually asking for food? If you never feel hungry, which is something I used to experience, what might be getting in the way? It could be a lot of different things. For me, I was so overwhelmed by my emotional experience that I shut everything out and I numbed myself to the point that I couldn't feel hungry. I knew I hadn't eaten for a while when I got lightheaded or my stomach cramped with pain from lack of food. It was terrifying trying to reconnect with my body at first. And now, I don't know what I would do without those subtle cues telling me how I'm doing. It is so important that I listen to my body. Another potential place for you to start, is what does it feel like in your body to feel energized or lethargic and tired? When you tell yourself, I need to go work out, is it because you feel an urge to move, run, lift? And if it's a buzz of energy or restlessness, or is it something else? If you think, I need to go work out, and you check in and you're thinking that because you feel exhausted, heavy, lethargic, and your brain is automatically jumping to labels like don't be lazy or you'll get fat, remember that you don't have to believe your thoughts. Maybe that exhausted, lethargic feeling in your body is a cue to slow down and rest this week. Maybe you do some yoga or a slow walk and then relax on the couch instead of going to the gym. See how that turns out for you. Or even if you go to the gym anyway, because you're used to pushing through, can you at least notice this and consciously realize that while your body is exhausted, you don't feel like you're allowed to rest? Notice the subtle reactions within your mind and body, and then notice how it feels after you try that experience. Do you feel better or worse having made that choice? This is how we start to learn. When my body feels like this activity might be what it needs. Not from instinctively knowing, but from trial and error. Rest is so important for our bodies. Without it, we are stuck in a chronic state of stress, which leads to all sorts of health issues. According to the Mayo Clinic, chronic stress can lead to an increase in mental health concerns, GI issues, headaches, muscle tension, heart disease, heart attack, high blood pressure, and even a stroke. If you never give yourself permission to take a break, your nervous system doesn't get to reset, and it will begin to shut down on you. One of my favorite quotes that I remind myself of every time my chronic pain flares up is, if you don't find time to give your body a break, it will find the time for you. It will, often when it is really inconvenient to do so, because it can't handle the stress that you've put it in. And it digs its heels in and says, how dare you expect me to do that after all that you've put me through? You know what? I'm done. And then it shuts down. And It's not just listening to your body. It is respecting your body's boundaries and reminding yourself that if you don't slow down, your body will shut down on you. It's going to happen eventually if you never stop. And it is better to take breaks when it feels okay than have a heart attack down the line because you never did. It's an extreme example, but it does happen. So let's run through some other questions that you can ask yourself and your body right now as a quick check-in. First, what is your energy level like right now? You might notice high energy, low energy, neutral. You might feel motivated or exhausted, or you might feel calm and peaceful. What has your sleep been like this week? You might be sleeping well and waking up rested. You might have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or you might be oversleeping and still not feeling alert. Is there any tension in your body in this moment? If you have tension, you might notice a tight jaw or neck, tension in your shoulders or a clenched butt. You might notice a lack of tension or neutrality, and that could feel like a relaxed stomach. Maybe your shoulders are just chilling and they're dropped towards the ground. Maybe you're laying down and listening to this podcast and all of your muscles are just glorious dead weight. And it just feels so nice to pause and release. Maybe you are a ball of muscle tension and pain and you can't tell where the pain stops and you begin. So if this is you, I invite you to find one spot in your body where that pain doesn't exist. Have you checked your elbow or your pinky toe? There are different sensations throughout our bodies, and we need to start noticing the differences between them. And then finally, I want you to ask yourself, are there any urges to move or stop moving? You might notice a desire to stretch or wiggle. I do. My shoulders want to roll. If you've been moving around, you might want to pause. If you're walking or running or cleaning, just take a moment and stop. Just look around your space. Just notice. If you've been sitting this whole time, maybe you want to stand up and take a lap. I'm going to move around. And actually, I'm going to take a pause here from moving because there's one added step to this, which is one of my favorite questions, which is, how did you know that you wanted to move in that way? What cue did your body give you to let you know that is what would make it feel better? So I'm going to pause in this and see if I can answer that question on this recording. So I am completely still now, and I am just noticing what my body is telling me. And I am feeling a pressure in my lower back, probably because I've been sitting in this chair for a while and I want to stand up, but I'm not done with this recording yet. So I'm not ready to stand up, but it does want something to help it release. So I am going to do some rolls and some mini cat cows while I'm seated here to try to let my lower back move and feel some of that love. I want to take care of my body, not just push through. Oh, so because I listened to that pressure and then I moved, now I notice that pressure's gone. So that's how I knew that that's what my body wanted. We always do this without realizing it. We stretch, we yawn, we grab a snack. But how did we know that's what we wanted? That's how we're going to start connecting to our body the more we ask ourselves this question, even if we don't know the answer. So now that we've checked in, what kinds of activities could you choose for self-preservation with your body? If your body is buzzing with energy, that could be a cue that you want to move. So this could be going to the gym or going for a run or a walk. It could be gardening. It could just be moving around your home gently and slowly, but again, inviting some form of movement to occur. It might be doing some somatic hops. And if you are watching this on video on my Substack, you can watch me do some hops right now. or you can do some tapping with it. I personally put on one of my favorite songs and I do like a mini solo dance party when I need to move in the middle of my day. And I just let my arms flail and I move and I don't do any specific like dance moves. I just dance. I want to emphasize that the goal is not, I feel like I need to move, so I should go to the gym. Or I feel like I need to move, I have to go garden. The goal is to notice that desire to do something and then pause and intentionally decide if it's a need for your mind or a need for your body, if they are in alignment, and what kind of activity would actually allow you to feel more like you. Don't follow the pressure of the should. Follow your authenticity and what your body is asking you to do. Sometimes it's go for a run. Sometimes for me, my body is like, don't you dare take me on a run right now. And I can tell the difference. Can you? You need to accept what your mind and body needs and then give yourself permission to lean into that chosen activity. If your body is feeling slow, lethargic, and exhausted, there is a good chance forcing it to go to the gym is not what it is asking for. So movements that invite slowing down could include gentle stretching, building a super cozy corner of your couch or bedroom and then settling into it with a good book or a video game and giving yourself permission to do absolutely nothing. You could meditate. You could go sit outside in your yard or your patio. Touching grass is always a plus for me. And allowing yourself to just notice nature or what the world looks like around you in this moment in time. So, with all of this said, all of these options, all of these examples, let's take a moment and remember the fact that your mind and body are connected. They're never going to work separate from each other. And it can be helpful to think about bringing the two together, especially when the needs contradict each other. If your mind is buzzing, but your body is exhausted, how can you give your mind what it needs while also making sure you're not pushing your body too hard? For example, if my mind needs to move, but my body needs to stop, I might do some somatic hops or that mini dance party I just talked about to help my mind instead of going for a run like my mind usually pushes for. Or I could sit on the couch and do some somatic shaking or some bilateral stimulation to help my mind process through what it's freaking out about. It gives a little bit of movement without pushing my body. If your mind is flat and you can barely move, but your body is itching to do something, how can you give your mind permission to stop while also making sure your body gets the movement it needs to feel okay? If this were me, honestly, I'd go for a walk with Juliet because she often knows the direction that she wants to go in. So I can check out mentally while my body is matching her pace. No decisions need to be made. My mind can be flat. I could also just lie on a yoga mat and do whatever stretches speak to me, but not try to follow a specific plan or stretching routine because that might ask too much of my mind in these moments. If your body is feeling lethargic and unhappy because you've been really stressed and you've only been eating soul food, how can you give your body what it needs to feel fueled and energetic while also helping your mind and emotional body feel regulated and okay? This is a tough one because I do my best not to tie eating and exercise together. All food is good for us in different ways. I call my favorite soul food, which would be things like cake, pasta, and oh my God, bread is my go-to soul food because it heals me in ways that perfectly roasted Brussels sprouts can't, even though I do love a good roasted Brussels sprout. If I have had a really rough week and I'm not feeling emotionally regulated, my mind will ask for my soul food, and I always give it without restriction or judgment. But I also check in around what feelings are leading to that craving, how much soul food my mind needs in order to feel comforted. I don't just check out and eat everything blindly. I am intentional the whole time. And I also separately check in with my body around what kind of fuel it needs. I will take shortcuts where I can. So like I start every morning with a smoothie because it's the only way I am ever going to get all of the vitamins and nutrients my body needs to feel ready for each day. I had to train my body to want food, which is challenging in its own right, but I was never really an emotional overeater. I was an emotional undereater. So now that I've healed a lot of that internal reaction that I had, I now feel lucky in that I am someone who can eat a single Oreo and call it a day. I have, in fact, eaten a single chip or a single fry before and been happy. I am good at checking in with how much I need and not just go into mindless eating until it's all gone. For others, this is a skill that needs to be strengthened, just like a muscle at a gym, so that you don't just eat explicitly for emotional regulation, but instead you eat for self-preservation, keeping in mind that there are several different parts of you that may want different things at different times. How can you notice? How can you make that choice? When we try to change patterns or behavior, we often do so without building new patterns or coping skills to take its place. If you are an emotional eater and you decide to just stop overeating, but then never learn to hold space for those emotions and you react to them differently, you'll either find new ways for that behavior to show up, like exploding at your loved ones or over-exercising. It's like someone who tries to quit drinking and then they just switch to smoking marijuana. Or you could fall right back into that old pattern and then beat yourself up for failing. Eating for self-preservation means giving yourself a slice of cake without judgment, but also taking a moment to notice what's going on in your body that makes you want that cake. Is it because you're happy and want to celebrate? Is it because you had a stressful day and that cake is the only thing that is going to make you feel better? What else can you do to process through that stress instead of using cake as your only tool? Can you let whatever is going on in your nervous system exist long enough to see your reactions to it that has led to the cake is the solution thought and make an intentional choice about what to do next? Like after enjoying that slice of cake, because again, soul food, it's okay. It's not bad. It's okay to want to eat that. Maybe you also try journaling or going for a walk or calling a friend. Don't try to just shut off the behaviors you don't like if they have been your main way of coping for so long. You have to give yourself permission to move through it slowly, to build sustainable change. And if you can, give yourself permission to continue as you build that insight into what's driving that choice and be curious about what else your mind and body might be telling you, well, then maybe you can build something new. So just this week, if you can, I invite you to stop looking for solutions and instead notice what exists. See if you can take the pressure off yourself from needing to fix your experience and instead slow down long enough to determine what you want to do in order to feel authentic within whatever experience you are having. I'm keeping it vague on purpose because every single one of us is upset or triggered or stressed by something different. You need to figure out what your body and mind are telling you. It's easier said than done, but if you can strengthen this muscle, your mind, body, and soul will thank you. So I'm going to end today with that same question I started with. What can you do to feel most like you? Hopefully something we talked about today resonated with you. If it did, let yourself sit with that idea for a little while longer. If you have any questions for this podcast or any themes you'd like us to focus on in the future, send us a message on Instagram at insightswithuspodcast or send us an email at insightswithus@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please follow, like, or subscribe. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, you can donate. To do so, find me, Anastasia Soroka, on buymeacoffee.com. You can also find Insights with Us on Substack for exclusive content, including videos and other writings about my insight journey. You can find digital downloads on my website, happymindwellness.com. Thank you for being my adventure buddy. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you for creating Insight with Us. I want to thank my partners, the Pelvic People. Everybody's bodies are different, and how we connect bodies, I'm talking pleasure here, should not be painful. Whether you want to have fun with yourself or with another person, the Pelvic People are a group of healthcare providers creating products to help your body heal and find your own path to pleasure. Please check out the Pelvic People. Use code InsightsWithUs7 for $7 off at checkout. thepelvicpeople.com. Use code InsightsWithUs7 for $7 off at checkout.